Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to have a class on, it's going to be a grammar class. It's going to be on stative verbs. That's what we're covering today. And your objectives for this lesson will be to learn what stative verbs are, and you will also know how to use them and how not to use them. But before we get into that, how do we normally classify verbs in English? You know that we classify verbs according to whether they are regular or irregular. We also consider the fact that they can be transitive and intransitive. Now, today we're going to talk about the fact that they can be dynamic or stative. This is another way to classify them. We classify verbs according to whether they are dynamic or stative. Now that I've said that, I think it's gonna be pretty easy for you to guess what the particularity of stative verbs is. Sorry. Now, so let's look at that. Let's look at dynamic verbs first. So what you need to understand about verbs in English most of the time, most of the verbs that we use in English, they are action verbs. And with action verbs, we can use the simple tenses, continuous tenses, and perfect tenses. We can use the action verbs with all of the tenses that we have in English. Let's look at these action verbs. For example, we have yawn, snore, drool, frown, run, sing. We can use these verbs in the continuous tenses. I can say I was yawning because I was feeling sleepy. When you can use wave you can use the continuous tense with all of these. One, sing, but this is what you can't do with stative verbs. We will see in a minute why. But what will happen is you will hear people use progressive tenses with stative verbs when they speak. This can happen because it's a natural thing for people to do. To break rules. People break some rules when they speak, and it can even sound normal, but it's not formal. Don't forget that natural language is informal language. So if you hear people break some of these rules when they speak, this doesn't mean that it's something that they are allowed to do. So let's look at stative verbs. As opposed to dynamic verbs, stative verbs refer to state or condition or quality. They are not action verbs. They do not refer to action. And we have stative verbs of feeling and emotions, stative verbs of opinion and perception. This is thinking. You have stative verbs of the senses. You have stative verbs of belongings and possession. And like we said, they are not action verbs. It's informal to use the progressive form of them. Now let's see what it. Now I'm going to let you pause this video for a second and look at this list of stative verbs of feelings and emotions, and try for yourself. Try to see for yourself how it will sound if you try to make sentences with any of these verbs using the present perfect. Not the present perfect. Sorry, the progressive tense. Yeah. You can actually hear people. You can actually say it yourself. You can say, "I'm loving it." It's an interesting game. I'm loving. You could say it, but it's not formal. I'm hating. I'm liking. You see, I think you can understand. Well, let's look at stative verbs of senses. It's the same thing. You can pause and try to make sentences with them using progressive tenses and see for yourself how it sounds. Same thing with stative verbs in opinion and perception. I'm forgetting, I'm remembering, I'm agreeing. Actually, you can understand that it doesn't sound well. The same thing for belongings and possessions. And yeah, like I said, this was gonna be a very short lesson on stative verbs. But what I want you to know is some verbs can be both dynamic and stative. For example, this list here, these verbs can be dynamic and they can be stative. So what I want you to do with this, here you see it's written homework, but it's not really homework. I want you to do this as a classwork. What I want you to do is make 2 sentences with each of these verbs, and one where they are dynamic and another one where they are stative. So you will see, you can make sentences with them. You will find that it makes sense. I mean, if you do it well, you will find that it makes sense when you use the present, progressive tenses with them. And yeah, this, like I said, I don't know if I said it when I started the class, but there is not a lot of things to say about stative verbs. So I think this is going to be the end of the video. So thank you guys, and end of recording.